You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Welcome back. We're here now with House Democrat Mike Zalewski, a Democrat from Riverside near Chicago. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mark.
You're very close to the budget negotiation processes usually every year. Many in our audience are familiar with that. You're running a bill to decouple the state and federal tax breaks that are in the CARES Act. You want Illinois to, Governor Pritzker's idea here, I think, and you're helping organize those votes in the House, helping the state to pocket the tax dollars Congress intended for businesses. We've seen how hard businesses are taking it on the chin right now. Why does the state deserve that money instead?
Because the federal government is balancing their budget on the backs of the state governments. We are perfectly happy with letting businesses...
The federal government isn't balancing their budget at all.
No, they passed the CARES Act to offer relief, theoretically, to stimulate the economy for the federal government, but they did it on the backs of state governments. We're happy to allow for a net operating loss deduction and an excessive business deduction. What we're not inclined to do is pick an arbitrary 5-year look back when 1 year is perfectly acceptable.
Why did the graduated income tax fail?
Because ultimately voters didn't trust Illinois politicians with their money, which we understand. They voted for a true flat tax. We're going to try to give them that in the spring.
Would we be here blocking that Congressional CARES Act tax break relief to businesses if the graduated income tax had passed?
Perhaps. I think
we would still be here.
I think we do not like when the federal government dictates irrational policy, tax policy to states.
You're part of the MOD Squad, which is a Democratic caucus of moderate Democrats, centrist, and I think I hear often support for pro-growth, pro-jobs rhetoric from that wing of the caucus. How do you square that with Governor Pritzker's promises earlier on that tax breaks for, in example, his first balanced budget that provided tax incentives for big tech facilities to come here? He says those tax breaks grow jobs. How do you square that with what you're trying to do now, blocking those tax breaks?
We're not trying to block anything. What we're trying to do is create a smooth, flat tax that my constituents that live in the near western suburbs can benefit from. Right now, a family of 4 in Burbank doesn't benefit when a special corporate tax loophole that benefits large corporations gets passed by the General Assembly.
All right, I want to ask you about something else quickly. You just sponsored a bill this week, I think, maybe even as recently as yesterday, to lift the ban that Illinois put in place when we legalized sports gambling. We said, okay, you can bet on pro sports, but not on the Fighting Illini when they're playing, or maybe they're going to go to the March Madness tournament this year. You want to make that legal.
Correct.
How do you address the concerns from the Illini AD, Josh Whitman, who last year, or I think the year prior now that we're in the new year, said that might compel or tempt college athletes to wager, to bet, to take some profit in this?
What I would say is, and it's not just University of Illinois, I want to be fair here, big-time collegiate sports put athletes on the field this year with COVID raging throughout the United States. There is no, that was far more dangerous than a legally sanctioned sports betting market. We should legalize it for everybody, and student athletes should benefit from it. That's my opinion.
So because they're taking on greater risk during a pandemic, you think they should have some benefits?
They made an affirmative choice to allow athletes to play. We're making an affirmative choice to level the playing field when it comes to this issue.
There's a vote today, or at least the proceedings will kick off behind closed doors as House Democrats push for finding their new leader. Who do you back for Speaker?
I privately committed to the Speaker. We've had great conversations in caucus about creating a unified front going forward. I hope that today we can come up with a plan for the caucus to stand behind one candidate.
And you want that candidate to be Speaker Madigan?
I do, but I'm only one of 72.
Do you see any of the 19 who have defected or who have said they won't back him taking us? I heard one source today, a House Democrat, tell me he thinks 2 or 3 of those 19 might flip back and support Speaker Madigan. What do you see?
That's a better question for them. I've encouraged everyone to come together. We've had very good dialogue in these forums and these caucuses. I expect that to continue today.
Is there anybody, I think the question or the debate I'm hearing in the House Democratic caucus is about experience and fundraising. And on those 2 fronts, Speaker Madigan is unrivaled.
Correct.
But isn't it about a different thing? Isn't it about the culture of corruption, the ComEd scandal? Isn't that what the House Democratic caucus really needs to be addressing here?
Take it from a sports metaphor perspective. We may need a rebuild in the House Democratic caucus. this isn't the time to start a rebuild in the Illinois House Democratic Caucus. It's probably 2 years from now, after the map, after a tough budget negotiation.
So you wouldn't have fired Lovey at 10-6. Sorry, I'm still bitter about that Bears thing from years ago. But on Speaker Madigan, though, how do you clean up the culture of corruption? And when, if not now, when does the Speaker need to leave? Should he stay another 2 years, 4 years? I heard he talked about his tenure or how long he might stay.
He gave a very clear answer on Friday that he's open to discussing the end of his career.
What does that mean?
He's willing to discuss it. That's a better question for him. What I would say is...
He's 78. He's been here 50 years on Wednesday.
That's correct. And I think he's clearly ready to empower members to lead on the issues of corruption, lead on the issues of budget, lead on the issues of creating a new Democratic majority.
Could you vote for Ann Williams?
Of course, I could vote for any one of my colleagues, but I prefer to vote for the Speaker right now.
And in the Black Caucus, there's a lot of support loyal to Speaker Madigan. How do you analyze that in the next 10 seconds? Why is that bond so strong?
In the next 10 seconds, it will be hard. I think he stood up traditionally for equal representation, both in legislative map-making and issues important to the Black Caucus.
Legislative map-making, an interesting thing. Thank you, Mike Zalewski, for joining us. Much more to cover this week. Stay with us as we'll continue covering from the State House and the Bank of Springfield Center. For Capital Connection, I'm Mark Maxwell.